Half a day. You almost made it to the end. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of the inaugural Guam Defense Forum. It's really been a great event. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I'm so happy to lead this next very important conversation. I'm Debbie Holton, the Senior Vice President of Strategy for Astro America, a nonprofit organization that teams with industry, government, and academia to create manufacturing accelerators and workforce development centers across the United States. And I'd like to welcome our distinguished panelists to the stage. And I can't think of a better way to put an exclamation point on this conference than to talk about additive manufacturing and what this transformational technology will mean for Guam in economic development and DoD operations. So our panelists here, Matt Herman with the Roosevelt Group, BJ Worrell with OSD Industrial Base Analysis and Sustainment, Alex Benham with Astro America, Doyon Murado with Miranda Defense Services, Dr. Hiroshan Hedirachi with the University of Guam, and last but not least, our friend Melvin Tavalas from Guam Economic Development Authority. So we welcome them all here today. We all know that Guam is a beautiful place, and we've talked a lot this week about Guam's importance to the American defense in the Indo-Pacific. But here we're looking at Guam in a new light, and I hope this will be a refreshing conversation for you, because we're not just talking about Guam as a strategic location, but as a place where together we will build a hub for innovation, resilience, advanced manufacturing, and economic prosperity in the region. GAMA is the Guam Additive Materials and Manufacturing Accelerator. It's a partnership with the government of Guam, Astro America, the University of Guam, Guam Community College, the Colorado School of Mines, Guam Economic Development Authority, and the U.S. Navy Maritime Industrial Base that will bring advanced additive manufacturing, technology, education, and training to Guam. Its purpose is simple, but it's powerful. Educate a skilled manufacturing workforce, produce parts here on island, qualify them to defense standards, and give defense and civilian sectors a forward deployed capability unique in the Indo-Pacific. So why does this matter? Well, as Admiral Lasky noted just this morning, every delay in critical part or repair impacts readiness. Additive manufacturing, or 3D printing, changes that. How many of you know what additive manufacturing or 3D printing is? Or you've heard of it? And you know that it's more than making baby Yodas. Okay, great. Well, by building parts layer by layer from digital designs, we will produce components on demand right where they're needed. So for military and all types of industries like automotive, energy, infrastructure, medical, and more, it's just a whole new world. So Governor Lulian Guerrero had the vision 5 or more years ago to make Guam an advanced manufacturing hub. And GAMA is the realization of that vision, already bringing the technology, partnerships, and capability to the island. And I'm going to ask Matt Herman to give a little more background on that part of the story.
Look, people are telling me this is probably the best panel that we've had all day. This is probably the most important thing. A little bit of levity here. It's the last panel before the bar opens. Look, I think Debbie did a good job of explaining the key elements here, but I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive into the origins of this and why this is so important, because I think it's a perfect example of everything that we've been talking about over these last 2 days. It's bringing a lot of things together. It's one Guam, and that we have a partnership between the government of Guam, local industry, the Department of Navy, and really more broadly, the Department of Defense. It's an example of where, I think it was on one of the earlier panels, someone talked about strategic action. The governor took some good, everyone's taking good risk. The governor took good risk in going out there to study, does this make sense? And then when we found out it does make sense, can we make it work? You don't want to build something and have it underutilized or not utilized at all. So there was good risk taken on the local government's part. And to the Navy's credit, there was good risk taken there by the Maritime Industrial Base, by PEO subs, and back then the Submarine Industrial Base, because there's a lot of risk in those programs, and so they were willing to take that good risk. It's an example of something I think we heard from a number of the panelists here locally about taking, you know, Guam taking its own future into its own hands. And that is what they're doing here. This is something you have not seen on Guam before, but yet we work with a lot of defense communities across the country. And they're going out there in various different ways, not just with additive, but with other issues. And they're putting a little skin in the game, and then the department and others come in. That is an example of what is happening here. Guam is going out, putting some skin in the game to get some of the infrastructure in place. The Navy is going to pay for the other parts of the infrastructure, the 3D printers, the work around it, but that is just the beginning. And so I think that really encapsulates what we, in part, what was trying to be achieved by this forum. How do you take strategic goals that came out of GITA and the Guam Chamber of Commerce's work on diversification and put it to work, get results, get things done, and from a Guam economic development perspective, get ahead of a problem. Don't react to everything. How do we think about what's coming down the future that's good for us, but what is also good for the Department of Defense as a partner? And additive manufacturing made a whole lot of sense. And so we've been putting together essentially a consortium here of industry locally, Astro America's expertise. And I think the one difference here that is important is that we're aligned with the Navy in this case with a program executive office. And as a, you know, as I think many of you know, I used to work with Congresswoman Bordallo, and we were authorizers, and I love my authorizer friends, but we don't have real money. The real money is with the program executive offices. And so when you're aligned with a program that is one of the top strategic priorities of the Department of Defense, that is a good thing. But this is also a dual-use technology that while initially this is focused on some initial Navy needs, I think you're going to hear from some of the other panelists, there is absolutely dual use for civilian community. And we'll, I think, talk a little bit more about those. But look, at the end of the day, this is the beginning of something, and there's a lot more that's going to come with this, and we hope it is really a driver of a much larger economic development effort here. And, you know, look, we look forward to that partnership. You know, if there's interest with IBAS and OSD, if there's interest with the Air Force and others, I think we welcome that. But in concert with that One Guam approach, I think it's important that, you know, we work in collaboration with the effort the governor has put forward and has really led on, because again, that is unique. This has not really happened in Guam before, and we want to make sure there's that coordinated effort so that we're not duplicating things. Because for any of you that watch this administration and all the fun that we've gone through in reorganizing the Department of Defense, when there's duplication, you become a target of folks, and you don't necessarily want to have a target painted on your back. So I think there's a lot of great opportunity here, but I want to foot stomp that this is something you haven't seen on Guam before. And I hope this is a model for other things. We've talked about cyber today, AI and cyber. We've talked about other things, maybe advanced air mobility in the future as well. I think this can be a model for how you get it done going into the future. So Debbie, I know we got a lot more to cover.
Great, Matt. Thank you very much. I'm sure folks will have a lot of questions after our panel, so we'll be sure to leave some time for that. I want to start out by really asking all of our panelists to talk a little bit about, from their own lens, what needs do you see additive and advanced manufacturing addressing most effectively here in Guam and across the broader region? And BJ, I'm going to start with you.
So when advanced manufacturing, because additive just makes a shape or a blob, so we talk about advanced manufacturing, because without subtractive and other techniques, some of them are very boring. It doesn't make parts. It doesn't make new capabilities. So when you talk about what do we see in this area, we are already in the FIC. We're in the first island chain now. We've actually proven out capabilities that are going to start to build ecosystems of ecosystems. In other words, we have to build commerce in our island partners. We have to build it in our allied partners. We have to build capabilities that can be used by the US government, but that only is about 20% of the use. The rest of the use should be consumed by the local partners, consumables, industry to make products. So advanced manufacturing is actually changing the game. It's creating an industrial revolution in America that is changing how we do business, how we produce parts. We like to say that, you know, economy of scale is a myth, because with advanced manufacturing, I only need to produce one to make money. I don't need to make a 10,000 part run. We just pioneered, we have now in Hawaii, we're pushing it forward, the first expeditionary foundry. There's only 2 foundries in the military, one at Rock Island, and now one in Schofield, which will move forward into the FIC here in January. But really, that capability is not about the military as much of what we proved out for the civilian world. That you can take your scrap material and very inexpensively turn it into 6061, 7075, and ferrous metals. So I think what you're going to see is advanced manufacturing has changed the paradigm on how we recycle, how we produce, and how we manufacture.
Great. No, that's awesome. And that whole idea of the circular economy here is also very important. Alex.
Sure. I actually echo very many of your points here. Additive manufacturing is a tool in the tool belt. It doesn't necessarily change the entire manufacturing landscape. You can make certain new things more efficient, but in terms of what we could potentially make here on Guam and where we're focused now is mostly just recreating kind of blobs, as you were saying earlier, just unique shapes that are, nothing's inherently new about them. It's just we're changing the way that we create it here locally, not reliant on supply chains in other places. What that means is point of care at the point of need. Someone else said it earlier with different words. But the point is, we are creating a permanent facility here on Guam, in the first island chain, in the weapons engagement zone, to sustain and supply specifically the Navy and the broader DoD, but also the local Guam community. So to answer kind of your question, Debbie, where are we going to use additive? All of those points.
All of the above.
Yeah, all of the above.
Doyen, what needs do you see the additive and advanced manufacturing addressing for you specifically, even at Marunda?
Yes, so for our company, which is a defense ship repair firm, we opened up an office here on Guam for the first time outside of Singapore because our U.S. Navy and our allied navies need us out here. And so we're taking a risk to come out and build up. And we've been working with Astra America on the additive manufacturing side because it's just symbiotic with what we do. It would help not only our business and our customer and our subcontractors to get the job done faster, quicker, cheaper, but it helps with our national security readiness and operational needs in this region especially. And so we're doing what we can to support, so we're going to be working together a lot. But as far as ship repair is concerned, I mean, just getting even the commercial aspect. So we're working on developing parts for safer Navy ships and submarines. But even just the ones that don't have to deal with a lot of the testing and evaluation, it is just things like housing for turbochargers and pumps or impellers, and that can be commercially. There are so many other uses for it. HVAC systems, little parts that take forever to come out, automobile industry, medical things. So we're excited that this is not only a Navy and Department of Defense initiative, but it's also for the local economy, which is why the government wanted to diversify and bring this industry out here. But it's going to take a whole ecosystem of partnership between all of us here.
No, very good point. It's all about working together. Dr. Hiroshan, what's your view?
Half a day. Good to be here. Okay, so I don't have to sell this technology anymore. You heard from 4 best people representing the industry. Being an academic and a researcher, I'll take a different route. Almost three decades ago, in the early 90s, when I was a college student, my university had 1 GPS, and it was locked in a box because it was expensive. We were not allowed to touch it. And guess what happened? Very soon things changed. GPS became a commonplace technology, and now we all have one in our pockets, right? Some kids from new generation, this generation, they know how to write an app that involves maps and GPS technology. So things have changed. This is exactly what's going to happen with 3D printing, or what we call additive manufacturing. I visited a whole bunch of universities, especially colleges of engineering in different countries during the last 2 years. Almost all universities that have some interest in research, they have 3D printers in their lab. This is like a welding torch or a lathe machine nowadays. And very soon, it's going to be something like a microwave oven in the future. It'll be a common element. So what I'm trying to say is, we don't want to miss the bus. We have to get onto the bus. And I'm very glad this is happening. I'm very glad the University of Guam received this opportunity to partner with all of us. And I had to mention 2 things. We are definitely heading towards the right direction. Direction is one thing, pathway is another thing. Direction is this. Pathway, we might take different routes. I represent a university. I might think and prioritize educational aspects of it. The government might think about policy aspect of it, and the industries, you guys will take another approach. But so the pathways might be different. We might have to discuss some things and sort out our differences. But I think with this venture, we are definitely heading into the right direction.
Thank you.
Debbie, if I could join in.
Of course.
What Dr. Hirschon mentioned is an important part of all this, right? It's not that you can just put this stuff here and magically things are going to get printed and magically things are going to happen. It's about developing that workforce. UOG is a critical partner. We need engineers, mechanical engineers, and there's a partnership there. You're going to start having folks with a mechanical engineering degree that can do the more technical side of this. But there's also the part for GCC where you need the technicians working on the printers and doing the other parts of this ecosystem. So Dr. Hirschon is spot on. Workforce is a key part of this. You need to develop that, and it's going to take us a little bit of time, but I think we're on a good pathway to get to a good point, because long term, that's how you sustain it. It's how you grow it. Hopefully, from a regional perspective, that's how this can spread to some of the other islands. Those students come here, they have an interest in it, they can go back, those capabilities. That's how you grow this. So it's not one thing over the other. It is that ecosystem approach.
So I'll take a broader approach, right? So I think additive manufacturing has the potential to grow and develop new industries, tertiary industries. So we're looking at automotive, aerospace, healthcare, medical devices, even construction, and for especially our local population, as that relates to maybe the development of affordable housing. All these industries will transform, I think, Guam into a tech hub for the region.
Excellent. That's the plan, right, Melvin? That's what we've got. I want to talk a little bit about Guam-based firms. Doyan, as Marunda is now here based in Guam as well. What role can Guam-based firms play in ensuring that the sustainment is not just delivered here, but driven by companies that are rooted here on Guam? How do you see Marunda contributing to that ecosystem of companies here?
I think we can contribute in many ways. Not only are we bringing this capability to our island, Guam and the region, for our military and defense of our island as well, but we have to upskill some of our workers here, because the ships that we work on have to be NAFC, we're NAFC certified, and so there are certain requirements that welders or riggers or whatnot, they'll need to have. And we don't really have that right now, and so we can take the workforce that we have and train them either under Marunda system, and then what we need to do under Department of Defense NAFC standards. And so we hope that we will continue to hire locally and train them as well. So I think it'll be twofold in that sense.
Great, thank you. I think that's exciting for everyone here. Alex, tell us a little bit, as the general manager of the Gamma facility, can you walk us through the vision, where we are now, kind of where things are going for folks that are living and breathing this every day, like some of the folks on the panel?
Sure. So I guess to just make everybody aware of what we're doing, and it's, if you haven't figured it out yet, we're building a factory here on Guam. And to kind of put it in terminology we've been using this past 2 days in terms of building resilience, building deterrence, I can't think of a better way to do that than having manufacturing capabilities locally on the island. So that's just like a broad scope of things. I've been reading 2 books that I'm going to recommend to everybody here on this topic. One is Freedom's Forge, and the other one's The Engineers That Won the War. Look it up. I recommend it. It's all about manufacturing and how that helped America win World War II. And so to put it in perspective, there's not really any manufacturing here on Guam. There's a lot of construction, there's cabinetry, all those kinds of things, but there's no true manufacturing and skilled labor for that. And of course, we need the skilled labor to staff the building. And it's not just about the building that I'm making, which is up the street. It's about the broader industry, like Marunda, or any other MIB suppliers that want to come to Guam. And that ties in the UOG piece as well. So the governor actually mentioned yesterday, national security is not existing without human security. So if you think about the Gamma program taking a big step back, we are building manufacturing here on island, but we have to give jobs and education to the local workforce to do that. We can't just bring people to Guam constantly to staff up this facility. We have to keep people here locally. One of the words that came up yesterday was brain drain, and I'm happy to report that it's not a big number, but so far in the effort that I've been doing, I've had 2 Guamanian adults that are out in the workforce in CONUS actually reach out to me and said, hey man, like, I really like what you're doing. I want to move back to Guam. I want to go home, and we need jobs like this to make it a reality. And so, I mean, that really hits close to me just because, I mean, it's important for everybody to have a lifestyle where they want to be, an income to support their family. And so as this facility is getting stood up, and I think it's also important to note that I live here now, and it's becoming my community. I've only lived here for 3 days. I got here on Sunday, but I've been here in total maybe 4 weeks over the course of my time working with Astro. But in terms of living here, it's only 3 days. But I'm getting to know the community, slowly and over time. And for example, we had students almost a year ago that went to a training course in Danville, Virginia that was funded through the Navy. And those 5 students are kind of like our case study, if you will, of the local population and how they can be trained to prove that they do have a skill set here. They are trainable, which sounds bad, but they definitely have a skill set to staff and do these advanced manufacturing capabilities. They could be operators for the machines. They could be engineers doing simulations to prove out that the parts that we're building are fit for service. They could be doing reverse engineering to redevelop parts that are obsolete, all these different kinds of things. And this is a long-winded way of saying that Guam will manufacture readiness for the country. So.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I think that's a great opportunity to talk about the students that went to the Accelerated Training in Defense Manufacturing School for a 17-week program in Danville, Virginia, in additive manufacturing. And then they spent 3 weeks at the Colorado School of Mines in their additive manufacturing labs with the students there, learning a lot more about the technology. And we're planning on employing those students at Gamma when we're ready, when all the equipment is installed, which should be within the next couple months. So just a great group of students, and they just had a great time, and we're looking forward to interacting with them and having them more. BJ, I was going to go to you next because I think it's important to talk about the workforce.
I want to thank Alex because that's a great feedback loop, because ATDM has been funded from the inception, created by OSD IBAS, Office of Secretary of War IBAS, and it's still funded and continue to be funded out in the out years. And that ties into the additional workforce development programs that Admiral Paparo mentioned in the opening statement, that we talked to the governor, Adele Radcliffe, last year about. that in this FY will come in. So it takes an ecosystem of ecosystems. So I'm happy that those children are going back in because we're doing the same thing in Hawaii. But
No,
what's your
that's
question?
excellent. No, I was going to go to you and talk about some of the things that you're doing in Hawaii, some of the lessons learned. You and I talked earlier about some of the K through 12 activities as well, and some of that we might be able to adapt here.
So we started in Hawaii. I inadvertently created the projects in Hawaii by sending people to ATDM to try to get native Hawaiian students in ATDM to come back and get jobs in the shipyard. And I will say, because I actually have brown children, I was getting tired of the white people parachuting into Hawaii, so I wanted to get the local kids to stay home because I want my son, and now my granddaughter, I want them to come back to Hawaii, not so I have to travel to the mainland. So we invested heavily. I think at the end of this FY for this fiscal year, we'll put a little over $50 million into Hawaii in the K-12 program, and now Honolulu Community College, which is the benchmark and the premier training for inside-outside machining in advanced manufacturing. The calibration lab there actually exceeds the calibration lab in the shipyard. But more importantly, it's the first time outside of the government, to your point, that the electric boat in HII U.S. Navy standards for NAVC has been taught at a local level. And that was the benchmark to pioneer it. And I think Admiral Paparo mentioned it. We are going to be sending students, we're going to start off with Army National Guards, because I have a housing issue in Hawaii. So I can activate them to bring them to Hawaii, send them through the inside-outside machining course, send them through the advanced manufacturing, have them intern up at the forge to learn about what we're doing up there, to bring them back to help stimulate the industry here, to create that pattern. I think when you go to the lessons learned, and I'll try to be brief,
Oh, you're doing great.
it was absolutely amazing when you put the sailors, the Army, and the Marines in front of machines. We knew things were going to happen organically, but we never expected the speed that they were going to happen. The fact that when you give them machines and you give them training and you give them mentorship, they were solving problems we didn't even know existed, and they were solving them without us knowing it. In other words, the Army went to talk to the Marines. They said, can you solve this? They went out and created a pin that if you could order it would take 18 months, but you couldn't order it because nobody made them. But that had a huge impact on availability of a machine. Can't go into numbers. That pin cost $500. They were able to develop it for $1.63. We qualified it in a digital twin. We then are going out to industry outside the wire to manufacture them, and we're going to pay $75 for each pin to be made for $1.63 pin of steel. So the lessons learned are, to go back to the point, if you build it, they will come, and it will start building solutions you never anticipated.
Thank you. Dr. Hiroshan, I'd like to go back to you for a minute and talk a little bit more about
Sure.
the education that's really central to this effort, how the University of Guam is going to be preparing these students, and how you see them kind of being prepared for the opportunities within additive manufacturing, general manufacturing, and other mechanical engineering careers that'll be around the island.
Okay, great question. So I had to give you some idea about what we have and what we intend to do. We are a small island with 160,000 civilian population. Even if we add the tourist in Tamonin area, it doesn't exceed any, I don't know, maybe 200,000 maximum. Well, anyhow, so the university is not very large, and we had to prioritize the immediate needs and the island. So we started with a civil engineering program. And if you just step outside, you can see how many tower cranes are there, how many construction sites are there. There is a construction boom, so it makes perfect sense to start with civil engineering. And we also need construction professionals, so we are working on it now. We will start a construction management degree program. However, if you think about the economy of the island, we all know it's not an industrialized island. We are a service type of an economy, tourism and military-related money. We know that. This is the ground reality, right? So we don't have a market for mechanical engineering degree programs, not yet. But if there is any way to bring mechanical type of opportunities as a university, we will provide our fullest support. And that's the strategy we are using with this initiative too. We cannot, or we do not have the capacity as the University of Guam to run a mechanical engineering degree program for multiple reasons, and the biggest reason is we don't have a market for the graduates. But if there is a pathway that gives us some indication about future jobs related to the military applications, sure, why not? So if you want me to talk about the 2+2 program that we are currently drafting, if I may use that word. Okay, if you're not familiar about what a 2+2 means in a university culture, it is a degree program handled by 2 universities, first 2 years at one university, and the last 2 years at another university, and the students get the degree from the second university. The label is attached to the second university. Because we don't have the capabilities to run a mechanical engineering degree program, this future 2+2 program, we will handle the first 2 years on the island. And most 2+2 programs, the students have to go away to attend another university. The beauty of this program is the Gamma Initiative will provide us an opportunity to bring another player into the island to take care of the second 2 years. So the second 2 years will be done by one of the most reputed universities in additive manufacturing, Colorado School of Mines. They will come here, set up a satellite campus, and they will do the second 2 years. So what is our role? We are actually providing the platform for this joint venture to prosper. We have the platform, we have the students too, because they are from the region, they are from the island. And when they work with Colorado School of Mines, the idea is to expose them to the latest technologies, either through their own research programs or Alex's playground. Alex is building up a little toy laboratory, which will soon become a certification facility. My assumption is that you guys will give an opportunity for the students to work with you side by side and get to know the latest technology.
Great, thank you. We're running short on time, so I want to give Melvin another opportunity to talk a little bit about the initiatives that are underway here with Gita and how you'll be supporting this and how we'll ensure that this actually does result in growth for the commercial sector of Guam and military.
So I used to work for the Minority Business Development Agency at the U.S. Department of Commerce, and one of the initiatives that we had was to facilitate the commercialization of research from the National Science Foundation folks, the labs. And I think there's an opportunity for additive manufacturing to create this commercialization of our research. And so Guam or Gita could facilitate these exchanges. And I think also that we can facilitate DoD applications or even industry leaders to facilitate tech transfer into our local communities, into our local businesses, from DoD to the private sector, from national to the local. And so those are things that we'd like to do. We're also looking into developing a science and tech park for the island. We need to create our own Silicon Village, our own versions of the regional Triangle Park and all that, right? And so Research Triangle Park. And so those are things that we're looking to do.
I think I heard Silicon Village today. That's what I heard. So do we have time for any questions from the, do we have any questions from the, yes, please. We can take one. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Steven Sasaki, Kaimanahila, retired shipyard at Pearl Harbor. I know BJ helped set up the forge at Schofield Barracks on Hawaii, and this project was very influential. Also, Honolulu Community College set up advanced manufacturing lab, as BJ referred. And I would like to know, being that a lot of the equipment that was obtained for this facility was taken from Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So I was wondering if, one, BJ could give some examples of the emerging and innovative technologies, and two, kind of describe the ecosystem, and three, how does that ecosystem create a workforce development, new pathways for innovation and prototyping? Thank you.
Could you make it brief?
I don't know if I can remember it all. So the forge is much different than what you're building here. We're an innovative experimentation facility to rapidly fail and even rapidly pivot, right? And we've already started to do that. So we have first of its kind in the world machines. We're working with 5 national labs, 20 plus universities, partnership with DARPA. And we're doing, think about the 4 to 5 TRL that's operationalized today because the war's not waiting, and been given great flexibility by Admiral Paparo. We've already put innovative capabilities at sea. We've built commodities at seas and consumables at sea. We built props at scale for the Navy SEALs. They're qualified by the Navy. We, through advanced manufacturing, made parts for nuclear submarines, which the qualification process is very interesting. When we do our non-destructive testing, and we're doing it in real time into it and tracking it, every minute we're grabbing a terabyte of data that is analyzed in the cloud to qualify that equipment, that machine, that capability down to the nanosecond to make sure there's nothing corrupted, because that's the quality you have to do to put it on a nuclear submarine. But what we're finding is those same machines can be used outside the wire. We've talked with Toyota Motor Corporation, has approached us to how can they use those machines for aftermarket part development, right? Because everything we do inside has to better inform what you're building here. Because the commercial side, industry does not have the IRAD and NRE to break stuff, let it fail, improve on it. So we're the innovative prototyping LRAD capability at the Forge. We are not an industrial MRO capability. That is not what we're about. I think I covered Honolulu Community College on that part, and I don't remember the last part.
Yeah.
Was it easy?
Well, you know, from the quality assurance, and you kind of touched on the traditional quality assurance and the in situ quality assurance, and how supercomputing and AI will build into that process. What pathways are created from that?
We're enabling, we're putting a lot of AI, we're funding a lot of AI-enabled decision-making for manufacturing. We're enabling AI design engineering so we can rapidly design something, get it through the qualification process, do a digital twin. I can talk about it. The Army came forward with a never fail part. Literally, it's never supposed to fail. It failed. We took the part, reverse engineered it, created a digital twin, ran it through all the metallurgical tests, and produced it and handed it back to them in 5.5 hours. That was built on a very unique DMG container. That was the first DMG Mori in a container in the world, but it's the first machine tool that we know of that's calibrated to the container, not to the floor. So that container is designed to go at sea and do 6 degrees of motion, and it will stay to 10 millionth of an inch tolerance. That's what we're doing up there so we can transition it forward to support the warfighter.
Thank you for that. Thanks very much.
Thank you, BJ.
Let me just thank our panelists. CEO of SMAASE. How'd I do? Am I close?
Thank you.
Thank our panelists.